Coming up, 3 homicides in one day and ZNS cameras roll as police investigate the latest killings, 2 of them just a few hundred feet apart.
Our cameras roll as the BUT clashes with Anatol Rogers Security. Find out the principal bone of contention coming up.
And we're in the final games before we get to the playoff in Night League softball. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Detectives faced with 3 murders in one day today. Good evening, I'm Kendino Knowles.
And good evening, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Munnings. And it's keeping authorities busy as the murder count continues to climb. Our top story tonight details the initial investigations into this spree of homicides here in the capital and why police are appealing for your help in obtaining any bit of information they can to solve these crimes. The first murder occurred on Broome Street West, but according to authorities, it wasn't initially classified as a homicide. Police revealed that the victim was standing in front of his residence around 4:50 Tuesday afternoon when 3 men in a black Honda Accord reportedly approached and shot him about the body before speeding off. Now, police need your help in locating those 3 suspects. Meanwhile, the victim, identified by police as 20-year-old Alexander Joseph of Fleming Street, died Wednesday morning.
We don't have any nothing new other than to say that there is an active homicide investigations that is ongoing.
It was then around 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon when a contingent of plainclothes and uniformed officers learned about another homicide on Fowler Street. Several residents assembled around the area to view the officers' initial investigation. Police even cordoned off both sides of the street while conducting this murder probe. We also traveled to Quacko Street, opposite Fowler Street, where residents gathered to watch what was happening. Now, police report that the victim was playing a game of backgammon with a group of men midway through Fowler Street when he reportedly got into an altercation with one of the men who allegedly fired several shots, hitting him and another man. Police confirmed the victim succumbed to injuries at the scene, and the other man was taken to hospital in a private vehicle where he is detained in hospital in serious condition. Assistant Police Commissioner responsible for crime, Anthony Ferguson, spoke with reporters at the scene.
The responding officers arrived at Fowler Street about midway. There we met the body of a male lying just on the southern side of the road in a yard with apparent gunshot injuries to the mid-body area. We have an active homicide investigations, and I wish to appeal to members of the public and persons who were in the company of the deceased at the time when he was shot to provide the police with all necessary information that would assist us in bringing closure to this latest incident.
While police probed the Fowler Street murder, they learned that a man was reportedly shot and taken to the accident and emergency ward at the Princess Margaret Hospital in a private vehicle where he allegedly died a short time later.
I have detectives at the hospital trying to confirm that, but the information that we are getting is that a male was taken to hospital with apparent gunshot injuries. His condition at the moment is not known. As soon as detectives provide me with that detail, we'll be able to speak to you more on it. I wish for persons in the community to please provide the police with all of the necessary information that they might obtain. The members of the public are your greatest source of information, and I wish to say to those persons who have the information to make it known to the police. And I think we would be in a position to quickly solve a lot of these matters.
Crossing over now to education, drama unfolding outside the Anatol Rogers High School today.
The Bahamas Union of Teachers president and members of her team were denied entrance to the school for a lunchtime meeting with teachers. Andrew Knowles tells us that things even got a little physical at one point between a union member and a security guard.
No minister, no police, no security is going to prevent the Bahamas Union of Teachers from doing our job And a part of our job is having meetings on the school campuses with our members.
Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson was denied entrance to Anatole Rogers on Wednesday for a lunchtime meeting with the school's 70-plus teachers. In fact, she was met by several police officers and a locked gate. But Wilson said that a directive from Education Minister Jerome Fitzgerald prevented the meeting from happening, and instead, she was told it would have to take place at 3 p.m.
We definitely will be filing a trade dispute today because this is against the Industrial Relations Act, it's against the labor laws. It's also in breach of 8.25 of our agreement, and it's also in breach of the grievance procedure that we've agreed to in our 2010-2013 agreement.
Mrs. Wilson did say, however, that several teachers did come out to speak with her. Anatole Rogers was one of the two schools where the BUT was threatening industrial action if the principals were not reassigned.
This school is one of the schools that we would have had the most problems and concern with over the last year and a half. You would also note that we are concerned about the leadership here.
Things even got a little physical at one point as one of the union members tried to enter those gates.
Excuse me, sir. Don't push
will
my...
be written up.
Don't push
Yes,
my
sir. Let me tell you
officer.
something. You push me this gate too. Yes, sir.
Don't push my officer.
Yes. I press in charge. You put your hand on me.
It's totally uncalled for. It's very unprofessional. The district superintendent, who was at the back of the security guard, called me to him, and he wanted to speak to me. I attempted to go, and the gentleman put his hands on me.
ZNS News attempted several times to speak with the school's principal, but was not even acknowledged and denied each time. We also attempted to get a comment from District Superintendent Julian Anderson, who was the most senior educational official present. However, he told reporters that he was not prepared to give a statement. Now, several cars were allowed in and out of the school property while Wilson and her team members remained on the outside. But once the school bell rings at 3 o'clock, Wilson says she will meet with her members. Andrew Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Air transportation is set to improve in Mayaguana following a major tragedy on that island. Officials tell us that the multi-million-dollar airport upgrade being carried out by the I Group will be completed in a month. LaDon Davis tonight tells us that the development will not only improve air arrivals into Mayaguana, but will assist in boosting that island's economy.
Area Member of Parliament V. Alfred Gray telling ZNS News that construction work to the multi-million-dollar redevelopment of the airport terminal is progressing well. Mr. Gray said the lights are up and the I Group developers are now making preparations to begin applying asphalt to the runway.
The lights, as I had perhaps said on an earlier occasion, have been installed. They are removed during the day to facilitate the construction, and they are put down every night just in case there is an emergency. And so all in all, because of the misfortune of recent vintage, things are looking up with regards to the airport.
Immediately after that aircraft tragedy that claimed the lives of 3 people in Mayaguana a few months ago, the airport terminal was shut down for a brief period. When asked if the works currently underway inconvenience residents in any way, Mr. Gray responded this way.
Well, there was no time that I am aware of when planes were not permitted to go in, other than immediately after the accident. There was a period when the airport was closed very briefly, and that was basically to do a total assessment of what was required to keep it operational. But the development took place in such a way that part of the runway was closed and part was opened, so as to facilitate the flights coming in and out.
So far, Bahamas Air is the only airline that offers direct flights to and from Mayaguana daily. But Gray says the government is now tapping into the services of other airlines to boost that island's staggering economy.
The government intends to have Bahamas Air resume its flights to Mayaguana as soon as the airport is completed. And because the airport is part of the I Group's overall development plan, it is expected that if they do what the heads of agreement envisage that they will, the development of Mayaguana should take place over a recently short period of time, and it is expected that flights will be coming in from Boston, chartered flights, to make the development the success that we know it can be.
But in the end, Gray says the project should be completed by the end of October and a full commissioning service will commence thereafter. LaDawn Davis, ZNS Network News.
Dozens of food and fruit vendors who owe the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources at least $500,000 in arrears are said to be keeping up with their monthly payments. Agriculture Minister V. Alfred Gray told our news team today that his team has collected over $300,000.
I'm very pleased with the responses that I'm getting from both Arawaki and Portuguese dock vendors. They're doing much better. When we started this process, the arrears amounted to more than $500,000 in arrears. And I think we are now very close to $200,000 in arrears. So we've collected over the last year or so almost $300,000. And so I think that's good. We're hoping that within the next year or two, all of the arrears will be settled.
In our first look at weather, Tropical Depression number 7 formed in waters just to the south of Puerto Rico around 5 o'clock this afternoon. It's expected to move towards the northwest and stay away from these islands, but more details coming up later in the newscast. But outside of our studios just now, we have mostly cloudy skies, temperature 84 degrees, relative humidity 66%. Your winds are out of the east at 7 knots. Barometric pressure 1,016.3 millibars at 30.01 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, temperatures around the Palm Beach Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Coming up, find out how some sex workers are getting into our country.
And later in sports, highlights from NPSA action. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.